Right now is time for Charting Futures. Here's Abigail Doolittle. And Abigail, you're taking a look at the pound plunging today.
You are right about that, Romaine. We do, of course, have the British pound down sharply on the day. Let's take a look at an intraday chart, because right now the pound having its worst day of the year, going back to December of last year at the lows, the worst day since November of last year at 2-year lows, actually closer to 2.5-year lows. So really getting hit on the fears of a no-deal Brexit, taking out all kinds of important levels of support on a near, medium, and even a somewhat long-term basis. But let's take a look at a truly long-term base chart of the British pound. This goes all the way back to 1970, and over this time period, we see a huge range over that period of time. Neither the buyers nor the sellers over that entire multi-decade span in control, but we see a huge low back in 83 or so, close to parity to the dollar, and then a higher range for many, many decades. More recently in 2016, going down to about $1.18, a bit of a recovery to the middle of the range. Right now, we're back toward the bottom of the range. If that range holds, we really could see the pound bounce back sharply higher. But if that support falls, look out. You could see lows going back to the early 1980s. To talk more about this and also how to play pound futures and options on pound futures, I'd like to bring in Peter Borish of Quad Group. Thank you so much for joining us for Charting Futures. And what do you think about that? What do you think about that chart? Do you think that support will hold or fold?
We do not think it will hold. One of the great things about markets is they go down gradually, and then they go down suddenly. And here we are, you're at long-term support. We always like to say you sort of buy the third, you sell the fourth, that's the fourth time. It's sort of a full circle for me, because when President Reagan intervened in 1985 in the FX markets, I was starting my career at the New York Fed in foreign exchange futures and options.
So you've seen it, it is coming full circle for you here.
Yes.
Let's take a look at the futures on the British pound, because I was talking about some of those near-term levels of support taken out over the last year. You can just see each level where the buyers had stepped up previously, just not hanging in here. So sort of supporting your bearish view that you think that the longer-term support even could fall through.
Right, and one of the great things about that chart is, as you know, you break key levels, so then support becomes resistance, and as you can see, the December, January levels became resistance in sort of the May-June period, which gives us another reason to believe that that becomes a launching off point for the next leg down.
So you would be selling the futures contract. Before we take a look at your options trade, you're more of a fundamental guy than a technical, or at least you're a bit of both.
We're both.
So in terms of that pound chart that we were just looking at, what do you think the what is in that chart? Do you think Brexit's just going to be no deal, total mess?
Well, that seems like the highest probability, but you have to look when it comes to currencies' relative rates of growth. One thing we can say for certain is that you have far more uncertainty in the pound relative to other currencies. So even if you don't want to play it against the dollar, you could play it against the euro, you could play it against the yen. That's one of the great advantages of the currency market. But given all this lack of sort of information out there, the British pound is sort of the last place that you would want to be relative to the dollar.
Okay, so and this chart really does support that view. So now let's take a look at how you would play it through the options. And you have a longer term idea here that really gives you a lot of room around that uncertainty.
Well, you want to get past Brexit, so that's October 31st. But as you know, in the political world, you may have a discussion, it may go a little bit. So the thing about futures in the quarterly, the most liquid is in the quarterly options. So that would be the December options for the British pound, which expire the first Wednesday of the month. So you have all that time. Therefore, it's not a gamma trade. So in this case, you're buying up a little bit in terms of premium to pay for that uncertainty, but you want to get past that cliff. The worst thing that always happens in my career is that you're long a put, it expires, and then the next day the market moves.
So you're well past that possible binary event, or if it gets extended out a little bit.
Yes.
But a bearish view here on the British pound futures and through the options.